The competition doubled the proven reserves at Red Lake Mine. It drove $10 million of free consulting by Robert's estimate. It vaulted Goldcorp to being the #2 valued company worldwide in terms of a gold stock by market cap. They're expending less energy and less cost per ounce because they're drilling and mining smarter, and it's made their operations more efficient. So here's how we can take an old economy company and take new economy principles and apply it. So what we're talking about in Backbone applies across every organization. We shouldn't only be thinking about it as high-tech companies. Another principle is we need open source management. I mean, how many people here feel that large companies today in Canada utilize the full potential of all their employees? By show of hands. How many people feel they use even half the potential of all their people? Right? So the real pain is how do we pull more ingenuity, creativity, collaborative effort out of people? And it's really using the open source tools that we have at our availability to do that. So here's the cost or the real threat of not innovating. This is Henry Ford with his original Model T more than a century ago, and it got 25 miles to the gallon. So now we have more than 100 years of relentless technological innovation that is head-spinning, and today the SUV in North America gets 17 miles to the gallon. So we have been going aggressively backwards into the future. And of course, the poster boy for conspicuous consumption, gets 6 miles to the gallon. Now, leadership in organizations is, and by the way, this is not how to green your company product, but leadership in organizations is really important. And this is Bob, and you can see what Bob said to journalists in a private briefing over lunch in the last, about a year and a half ago. Bob, by the way, was in charge of GM's green car strategy. And so this is the result of Bob's leadership. Because GM has the most fuel-inefficient vehicles of any of the major car companies. So when oil went to $147 a barrel, what was the most mighty and powerful company in the US ceased to exist financially. So we have a very serious challenge for manufacturers and, in fact, all organizations in Canada to become as energy efficient as possible. Amongst the OECD, we are the most energy inefficient economy in terms of each dollar of GDP and how much energy is required to produce it. We require more energy than any other OECD country. In fact, there are only 3 countries in the world that are worse than us. Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Iceland, all 3 awash in energy. In fact, if you take the market cap or value of these 3 companies, it is only equal to Toyota, and that's after its recall problems. Just to highlight how profound this is, if every car in North America got the same fuel efficiency as my Prius, we would have to import no oil into North America, and we would require no offshore drilling. In other words, the hundreds of millions of dollars that are transferred every year to the Middle East is the largest voluntary transfer of wealth in human history, as T. Boone Pickens says. It's also led people like Amory Levins, here in the bottom right, to say that there's more oil in Detroit than there is in Saudi Arabia. In fact, there's no oil in Detroit, but the software in the heads of executives in refusing to have fuel-efficient vehicles and resisting it at every step has forced the U.S. When oil was $147 a barrel, the U.S. was transferring $700 billion a year to the Middle East voluntarily, unnecessarily, because of fuel inefficiency. And in Canada, the threat is this. We now have a petrodollar. And you'll note that the Canadian dollar was the highest it had ever been in recent years when oil hit 147. And oil's broken 100 again. So for every manufacturer, you'd better becoming more energy efficient if you're an exporter because on the export side, the dollar's rise is going to eat into your export potential. So energy efficiency is going to be essential. And Jeff Rubin, former chief economist for CIBC World Markets, says oil's going to $225 a barrel before the end of this year. $225. So if you thought we had problems at $147, how do you think things are going to go at $225? Or think about this. What are you going to do when oil's $350 a barrel? If you're not focused on energy efficiency, it's a huge ticking time bomb. Because really, we've left the end of cheap oil. So those are the comments I wanted to touch on. You can reach me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Some people have said some nice things. This is Jim Balsley, the white-haired guy is George Soros this year over at Davos. And Jim has said that Blindsided, he highly recommends it because change is the Russian roulette we're all experiencing. Oh, by the way, everyone, when you leave the event today, you're going to get a little gift bag. And in it, I've put a $50 double audio CD of Blindsided, just as part of this celebration. I've actually been writing for Backbone magazine. I looked at it, Steve, today, since 2003. So I'm going into my 9th year, or 8th or 9th, whichever way you count it, of writing for Backbone. So it's just, yeah? In 8-track. Yeah, no, I don't, but we can work on it. Maybe they'll come back and be like trendy. This is how you can reach me, jimh@jimharris.com. And if any of you want to get a copy of either of, we'll take any questions, but if any of you want to get a copy of either the books or the other CD, you'll all get the blue CD here. But you will get them in the room at the back. They'd normally be $50 each, with shipping that each, but we'll give them to you with the HST all in for about $25 if you want any of them. So be happy to take any questions if you have them. Are there any quick questions, disagreements? It's obviously a Canadian audience. Nobody wants to go first. So we'll move directly to the second question. Who has the second question? Okay. Well, I'm going to be here floating around in the little reception that we have afterwards, beer and wine reception, and I'll turn it back over to our host, Peter.